I clutched the termination papers in my trembling hands, the words effective immediately burning into my vision like acid, while Michael Evans stood there with a practiced corporate sympathy plastered across his face. As I mechanically packed 9 years of my life into a cardboard box, a strange calm washed over me, and not anger, but absolute certainty that Michael had just lit the fuse to a bomb that would obliterate everything Horizon Corp had built. For almost a decade, I, Jason Miller, had poured everything I had into Horizon Corp. My story wasn't particularly special at first glance, small-town kid with a business degree and a knack for connecting with people. But what I lacked in pedigree, I made up for in pure determination. I still remember my first day walking into that modest office park with sweaty palms and a second-hand suit, desperate to prove myself. Back then, Horizon was barely staying afloat, a $4 million operation competing against industry giants. But I saw potential where others saw limitations. Those early years were a blur of 80 nowadays and missed anniversaries. My wife Sarah would often fall asleep alone, the dinner she prepared long gone cold. Just one more year, I promise her as I kissed her forehead at 2 a.m. Once we get Thompson Manufacturing on board, things will calm down. They never did. My son Tyler grew from a toddler to a teenager in the snapshots I caught between client meetings. I missed his first baseball game for a pitch in Cincinnati. I still keep the voicemail he left me that day. Dad, I hit a double, my most treasured failure. But at Horizon, I was unstoppable. My client list read like a who's who of regional powerhouses. I didn't just know their business needs, I knew that Greg Thompson's daughter was heading to Stanford on a volleyball scholarship. I remembered that Warren Henderson collected vintage motorcycles and that Scott Carlton had quietly battled cancer last year. These weren't just accounts, they were relationships built on late-night calls, on showing up when others wouldn't, on caring when it wasn't in the job description. Jason doesn't sell products, he solves problems, Warren once said at a company party, clapping me on the shoulder. That's why we'll never go anywhere else. The room had erupted in laughter when he added, hell, my wife talks to him more than she talks to me some weeks. Under my watch, Horizon grew explosively. My accounts alone brought in $12 million annually, nearly 40% of the company's $30 million revenue. CEO Derek Wilson once pulled me aside at a holiday party, 3 whiskeys deep. You know, Miller, I'd be living in a cardboard box without you, he slurred, eyes watery with sincerity or scotch or both. I believed him. I believed in what we were building. Every sacrifice seemed worthwhile because I wasn't just selling services, I was creating something lasting. My legacy. Sarah saw the truth before I did. They're taking advantage of you, Jason, she'd whisper as I rubbed my bloodshot eyes at midnight, still answering emails. You're giving them everything, but what are they giving you? Security, I'd answer without hesitation. A future. The bitter irony of those words still makes my stomach turn. The warning signs were there, looking back. The way Derek stopped inviting me to strategy sessions. How the annual performance bonuses shrank while the expectations grew. The subtle shift in language from which the company expects. But loyalty ran deep in my bones, a value my father had instilled in me before his heart gave out when I was 16. Your word is your bond, son, he told me, calloused hands gripping my shoulders. Stand by the people who stand by you. So I stayed. Through the restructuring. Through the office politics. Through the subtle erosion of everything I'd built. I convinced myself that my dedication would be recognized, rewarded, respected. I couldn't have been more wrong. 6 months ago, they brought in Ryan Thompson as our new VP of Sales. I still remember the first Monday morning meeting him striding in with his custom Armani suit and MIT MBA credentials displayed prominently on LinkedIn. The cologne announced his presence before he did. We need to optimize our revenue streams and maximize client yield, he declared to the room that I was never quite connecting with anyone's. Some legacy approaches simply aren't aligned with our growth trajectory. I felt a chill when his gaze briefly landed on me. Legacy approaches. After the meeting, an email appeared in my inbox requesting my presence in his office at 4 p.m. Jason, you've been a valuable asset, Ryan began, flashing that practiced smile that never reached his eyes. But our compensation structure is misaligned with industry standards. With a few keystrokes, he pulled up a spreadsheet showing my commission structure. We're implementing a new scalable framework, he continued, as if reading from a management textbook. Your base remains unchanged, but we're adjusting the variable component by 20%. 20%. Just like that, nearly a fifth of my income vanished while I sat across from a man who'd been with the company all of 6 weeks. This isn't negotiable, he added when I opened my mouth to protest. The decision's been made at the executive level. I should have seen it for what it was, the first cut. But I swallowed my pride and kept going. My clients needed me. The relationships I'd built were too important to abandon over money. The second warning came 3 weeks later when maintenance relocated my desk from the central office area to a corner spot near the supply closet. Space optimization, they called it. Then I stopped receiving invitations to strategy meetings. Calls went unreturned by Derek. My expense reports faced unprecedented scrutiny. Here being paranoid, I told myself, even as the knot in my stomach grew. The third sign was impossible to ignore. Ryan hired Natalie Parker, 26, fresh from business school, hungry and eager. She'll be shadowing you on client calls, Ryan informed me. Knowledge transfer, very standard procedure. There was nothing standard about it. I caught her one afternoon copying my client contact list into her personal notebook. Just getting organized, she said with a smile that reminded me too much of Ryan's. That night, I finally voiced my fears to Sarah. We sat at our kitchen island long after Tyler had gone to bed. They're pushing me out, I said, the words bitter on my tongue. After everything I've done. Sarah reached across the counter, her fingers intertwining with mine. Maybe it's time to consider other options, Jason. You've given them enough of your life. But I built this, I whispered, surprised by the crack in my voice. These aren't just accounts, Sarah. Greg Thompson called me when his wife was diagnosed with MS. Not his brother, not his best friend to me. Warren sends me birthday cards. Scott's kid calls me Uncle Jay. And they'll still be your friends if you work somewhere else, she said gently. I shook my head. It's not just about the relationships, it's about finishing what I started. I can't just walk away. The following Tuesday, I arrived early to prepare for the quarterly review with Thompson Manufacturing, a presentation I'd led for 8 years. Walking toward the conference room, I heard Ryan's voice and paused. The transition will be seamless, I assure you, he was saying. Jason has been instrumental, but Natalie is fully prepared to take the reins. Our acquisition by Granite Capital next quarter will only enhance our service capabilities. My blood turned to ice. Acquisition? Nobody had mentioned Granite Capital to me. I stood frozen, briefcase hanging limply at my side as the pieces clicked into place. They weren't just replacing me. They were selling the company, selling my clients, my relationships, my 9 years of sacrifices, neat little assets in a portfolio. And they needed me gone before the deal closed. I walked into that meeting with a smile plastered on my face, but inside, something fundamental had shifted. I'd given this company everything, missed my son's baseball games, sacrificed countless evenings with Sarah, poured my soul into building something I believed in. And in return, they decided I was disposable. That night, I didn't answer the 3 client calls that came in after hours. For the first time in 9 years, I turned off my work phone and really looked at my family across the dinner table. Tyler was telling a story about school, his hands animated so much like mine. Sarah caught my eye and smiled questioningly. Just listening, I said quietly. In that moment, I made a decision. They wanted to push me out. Fine. But they had dramatically underestimated what would happen when I was no longer there to hold everything together. I stared at the termination papers in front of me, the words effective immediately blurring as my hands trembled. 9 years of my life reduced to a 2-page legal document and a cardboard box. I'm sorry it came to this, Jason, Ryan said, not looking particularly sorry at all. We're moving in a different direction. I nodded numbly, watching him check his Rolex, probably counting the minutes until his next meeting. My mind flashed through all the birthdays I'd missed, the anniversaries cut short by emergency client calls, the countless times I told Tyler, next game, buddy, I promise. All for this moment. All for nothing. As security escorted me out of final humiliation, I noticed Natalie already settled at my desk, fingers flying across my keyboard, accessing my client files. Our eyes met briefly. She looked away first. Walking to my car, something crystallized inside me. A strange calm settled over me like morning frost. I wasn't angry. I was clear. For the first time in years, perfectly clear. I sat in my car for nearly an hour, watching employees come and go through the lobby. Then I made 3 calls, not to HR, not to a lawyer, but to Greg Thompson, Warren Henderson, and Scott Carlton. Greg, it's Jason. No, I'm good. Listen, I just wanted to let you know personally that as of today, I'm no longer with Horizon. I didn't trash talk. Didn't recruit. Just facts. Just truth. You're kidding me, Greg's voice cracked with disbelief. They let you go after everything you've... I just wanted you to hear it from me, I interrupted gently. Natalie will be handling your account going forward. Silence hung heavy on the line. The hell she will, Greg finally responded. The other calls went similarly. By the time I pulled into my driveway that evening, my phone was already blowing up with missed calls from Ryan, Derek, and even the board chairman. Sarah found me in our backyard, staring at nothing in particular, still in my suit. It happened, didn't it? She asked softly, sitting beside me. I nodded. 9 years, sir. 9 years building their empire. And what did they say when they did it? That I wasn't aligned with their future vision. I laughed, a hollow sound. Their future vision of selling my clients like cattle to Granite Capital. Sarah squeezed my hand. What happens now? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. Derek Wilson, the 3rd time in an hour. You should probably take that, Sarah said. I declined a call. No, I said quietly. I don't think I will. By morning, 8 companies representing over $3.02 million in contracts had terminated their relationship with Horizon. Not because I'd asked them to, I hadn't, but because loyalty runs both ways. Julia, my former assistant, called me in tears from the bathroom at work. "They're freaking out, Jason." Derek called an emergency board meeting. The Granite Capital people showed up and started screaming about material changes to valuation. She lowered her voice to a whisper. "Ryan's blaming you for poaching clients." "I haven't called a single client except to say goodbye," I replied truthfully. "I know," she said. "That's not why I'm calling. I thought you should know. This was planned months ago. I saw the emails. They needed you gone before the acquisition because Granite wanted your clients without you holding the relationships. They've been parading Granite reps in front of your clients for months." The betrayal hit harder than the termination ever could. While I was missing my son's birthday party to save Thompson Manufacturing's quarterly order, they were secretly selling my life's work out from under me. That afternoon, as I sat across from the managing partner at Newbridge Financial discussing my future, my phone lit up with a news alert. Horizon Corp stock plunges 22% as acquisition deal with Granite Capital collapses. I didn't smile. Didn't gloat. There was no need. Sometimes the most devastating revenge isn't what you do. It's simply stepping aside and letting karma collect its debts. I was halfway through signing my new contract with Newbridge when my phone lit up. An unknown number. I almost declined it. "Hello?" I answered reluctantly. "Is this Jason Miller?" A woman's voice, unfamiliar, professional. Speaking. "My name is Catherine Levitt. I'm with the SEC's Division of Enforcement." My pen froze mid-signature. "The SEC?" My heart hammered against my ribs as she continued. "We're conducting an investigation into Horizon Corporation regarding potential securities fraud in connection with their attempted acquisition by Granite Capital." Blood rushed to my ears as memories flashed to late nights preparing reports. Numbers that never quite added up. Ryan's insistence on massaging certain projections. "Mr. Miller, are you still there?" "Yes," I managed. "I'm just surprised. We've received documentation suggesting Horizon may have been inflating revenue figures and client retention rates to secure the Granite acquisition. Several irregularities were flagged in accounts you previously managed." I felt the floor tilt beneath me. Those quarterly reports Ryan had me sign off on. The client meeting summaries that somehow changed between my drafts and the final versions. "We believe you may have information relevant to our investigation," she continued. "Your cooperation would be beneficial." As I hung up, Sarah found me staring blankly at the kitchen wall. "Jason, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I couldn't find the words at first. "They were using me," I finally whispered. "All those reports, all those presentations, they were manufacturing numbers using my reputation as cover." My phone buzzed with a text from Julia. "Did the SEC contact you? They've been here all day, taking computers, Ryan and Derek in separate conference rooms with lawyers." That evening, I sat in my home office surrounded by years of documents I'd kept, client reports, emails, presentations. Things clicked into place with sickening clarity, the strange edits to my reports, the mysterious corrections to my projections, the way Ryan insisted on centralizing client communications through his office. I wasn't fired because they wanted my clients without me. I was fired because I was the one person who could expose their fraud. The SEC investigator arrived at my house the next morning. I handed her 9 years of documentation, every regional report, every unaltered spreadsheet, every client communication they thought I didn't keep copies of. "This is comprehensive," she said, leafing through my files. "You must have suspected something." "No," I replied honestly. "I just never trusted people who didn't value loyalty." That afternoon, Horizon stock was halted after dropping 43% in 2 hours. Breaking news crawled across my screen. Horizon Corp executives facing federal fraud charges in failed acquisition scheme. I closed my laptop and walked outside where Tyler was setting up his basketball hoop. "Ready for that game I promised?" I asked. Sometimes revenge isn't something you plot, it's something you discover was built into the universe all along, waiting patiently for the truth to surface. As I walked through the doors of Horizon's former headquarters, now bearing the simple Felice sign in the window, a strange feeling washed over me. Not satisfaction, exactly. More like quiet vindication. 1 year after that fateful SEC call, I stood watching movers load the last of Horizon's office furniture into trucks. The once bustling financial powerhouse had crumbled spectacularly, its stock now worth as pennies trading on the pink sheets. Ryan and Derek didn't just lose their jobs, they lost everything. The federal indictments came down exactly 3 months after my meeting with Catherine Levitt. Securities fraud. Wire fraud. Conspiracy. The works. Last I heard, Ryan was facing 12 years and Derek 15. Their legal fees had already bankrupted them both. I recalled Derek's desperate voicemail from 6 months ago. "Jason, please, you have to tell them I wasn't aware of the extent." I never called back. Some calls aren't worth returning. My footsteps echoed through the empty lobby where I'd spent 9 years of my life building something I believed in. The marble floor remained, but the soul of the place was gone, just like the $142 million in shareholder value that evaporated overnight when the truth came out. At Newbridge, we moved into our expanded offices last month. The brass nameplate on my corner office still gives me a jolt every time I see it. Jason Miller, managing partner. My phone buzzes constantly with industry colleagues seeking advice, former competitors wanting partnerships, and yes, clients who never stop trusting me. You alright? Sarah's voice pulled me from my thoughts as she joined me outside the building. Closure? Something like that, I nodded, taking her hand. I thought about Tyler's basketball tournament last week and how I'd been there for every game. How I'd never missed a school event since starting at Newbridge. How my new partners understood that family wasn't just something you mentioned in corporate value statements, it was something you honored with your time. Greg Thompson had invited me fishing next weekend at his cabin. Bring Tyler, he'd said. My grandson's about his age, they'll hit it off. These weren't just client relationships anymore, they were genuine friendships unburdened by corporate pressure. The SEC had called again yesterday. They needed my testimony for the upcoming trial. Your documentation saved us months of investigation, Catherine had said. Without you, they might have gotten away with it. As we drove away, Sarah squeezed my hand. Do you ever regret not taking them down yourself? You could have sued, gone public. I shook my head. The best revenge isn't what you do to others, it's building something better for yourself. Last week at the Midwest Financial Services Conference, I delivered the keynote address to Pat Ballroom. My presentation wasn't about revenge or bitterness, it was about trust economics. How client relationships built on integrity created 53% faster response times and 30% lower costs in transaction-focused approaches. 5 more former Horizon clients had signed with us that same day. Each signature felt like turning a page rather than settling a score. The empty Horizon building disappeared in my rearview mirror as we headed toward Tyler's school. He had a science fair tonight, something about renewable energy. I wouldn't miss it for anything. You know what's funny? I said to Sarah. I spent so many years feeling loyal to a company that saw me as replaceable. Now I work somewhere that values what I always knew was important. My phone buzzed with a text from Julia, now my executive assistant at Newbridge. Granite Capital called. They want to discuss a strategic partnership. I smiled and put the phone away. Some calls could wait until tomorrow. I had a science fair to attend. The universe has a way of balancing the books. Not through elaborate schemes or calculated vengeance, but through the simple physics of truth. What's built on lies eventually collapses under its own weight. What's built on trust stands the test of time. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do isn't plotting revenge, it's simply living well. I never set out to destroy Horizon. Truth is, I simply walked away and let nature take its course. The collapse that followed taught me something profound about business and life. Relationships aren't corporate assets to be bought and sold, they're living bonds built on trust and respect. When companies reduce people to profit centers and loyalty to a line item, they've already planted the seeds of their own destruction. No acquisition strategy or corporate restructuring can replace the years spent earning someone's trust. Sometimes at night, I still think about that empty building with its fully sign. Not with satisfaction, but with a certain melancholy. All that potential, all those careers, all that effort reduced to nothing because a few executives couldn't see that their greatest assets walked out the door every evening. The sweetest vindication wasn't watching Horizon crumble. It was building something worthy of the trust my clients placed in me. In the end, I didn't need revenge. I just needed to remember my own worth.